You know, the Kansas City Chiefs are probably the worst team in the NFL right now. They're 1-9. They've lost 7 straight games. They're really at a low point after getting beaten 28-6 last week against the Cincinnati Bengals at home. They weren't even competitive in the game, and the Bengals are an average team. But I was hearing a couple of the players and the coaches talk earlier this week, and you know, they're making a change at quarterback this week, going back to Brady Quinn. And Brady Quinn hasn't had any success at Kansas City so far this year. Really hasn't had any success anywhere in his pro career so far. But, you know, the guy has shown flashes, and you get the feeling that maybe he's tasted the worst of it already this season. I don't know. I got that feeling anyway. Not only for Brady Quinn, but for the entire Kansas City Chiefs organization. I was hearing these guys talk, and I got to thinking, you know, the Chiefs, they sound like a team with nothing to lose. They don't have anything to lose anymore. They seem to still like their coach, Romeo Crennel, at least if you believe what the players say. And Crennel does have the reputation as a player's coach. They're shaking some things up, making a change at quarterback. I thought, you know, the Kansas City Chiefs, they might start playing better. They might start surprising some people. Obviously, anything trending towards competitiveness would be surprising people at this point with the Chiefs. But I began to think, you know, over the next couple of weeks, maybe this week in particular, Kansas City might be a good bet. At that time, this was a couple of days ago, I hadn't looked at the schedule yet. I believe this was Monday. Did not know off the top of my head who the Chiefs played this week. Now, later that night, I did look at the schedule, and then I saw the Chiefs play the Denver Broncos. And basically all those things I just said about how the Chiefs might be a sneaky good bet this week. They have nothing to lose anymore. Last season, they played better towards the end of the season when they were basically hopeless and out of it, had nothing to lose. That all dissolves and goes out the window once I see they're playing Denver this week. Denver's in Kansas City, but still a 10.5-point road favorite on BETDAQ. Total hasn't yet been released for the game. How do you bet on the Chiefs in this game with any confidence? I'll tell you what, you might talk yourself into a Chiefs bet here, but you will not be feeling good about it all day, and I advise not watching the game, because if the Chiefs do pull out a win here, against the spread that is, because I don't think there's really much chance at all of them pulling out a win, an actual win. But if they do somehow cover the number here, then it will be some sort of fluky circumstance, and that could happen. 10.5 is a big number, tough to cover double-digit numbers in the NFL. We saw it last week. Hey, I won betting against Denver last week. I backed San Diego plus 8.5 points in that game. I was lucky to win that game. San Diego pulling out a backdoor cover, scoring a late touchdown. They were down 2 scores, and their offense finally came to life once the Denver defense backed off a little bit there at the end of the fourth quarter. Listen, I was lucky to win last week. I am not eager to bet against the Broncos again anytime in the near future. Now, I am now a full believer in this team. At the beginning of the season, I was not. I was not one of those people who predicted Denver would win the AFC or even the AFC West. In the preseason, I liked San Diego to win the AFC West. I thought Denver would end up with a record similar to last year's record, 8-8, 9-7. They had a tough schedule this year, especially in the beginning of the year. And they didn't come out of it unscathed. They lost 3 out of their first 5 games, but they really have it rolling now. 7-3. They had covered 4 games in a row before last week, and as we said, that was all but wrapped up last week before San Diego snuck in there in the end and stole that cover. And could something like that happen with Kansas City this week? Absolutely it could. I mean, I don't think it's likely. This Chiefs team, 32nd, dead last in the NFL in points per game. The Jags had been dead last in the NFL in points per game all year, but they had a 37-point outburst against Houston last week. So Kansas City now officially takes over the claim as the worst offense in the league, at least in terms of points per game. They're only averaging 15 points a game, and they're allowing 28 points per game. That's right, the Chiefs, last in the league in scoring, 28th in the league in points allowed. They only score 15 points a game. They allow 28 points per game. The Denver Broncos, their offense, you might as well be watching the Indianapolis Colts 5 years ago. I mean, Willis McGahee, we just found out, put on IR this week. He'll be out for the season. He might be able to come back if Denver makes the AFC Championship game, but everybody knows that at this point, Willis McGahee was just a prop on this offense. Ronnie Hillman's going to be able to fill in for him quite nicely. This Denver Broncos offense is Peyton Manning. Just like it was all those years with the Indianapolis Colts, nothing has changed. The names have changed, the uniforms have changed. Now, instead of Marvin Harrison, Reggie Wayne, he's got Demaryius Thomas, Eric Decker. And Thomas and Decker might not be quite as good as Harrison and Wayne in those guys' prime, but they're probably a little bit better than the Austin Collie, Pierre Garçon receiving core that Manning was dealing with in Indianapolis before he came to Denver. So we see the results. Denver's second in the NFL in points scored right now, third in yards per game. They score 30 points per game. They really have it rolling. I know it's tough to cover a double-digit number in the NFL, and I just said a couple of minutes ago that I had some good feelings about the Chiefs a couple of days ago, some odd good feelings, because they're 1-9. They've lost 7 straight games. They were blown out at home in their last game by a mediocre team. But in hearing some of the guys talk, I thought, they might surprise some people. They don't sound like they've quit yet. But I can't bring myself to back the Chiefs or to recommend that you back the Chiefs against the Denver Broncos. 10.5 points or not, Denver is going to win this game, and I think they'll probably cover.